Welcome to the Year of the Movie podcast, the podcast where we talk about movies from the year of the movie 2023. How are you?
I'm great.
Good.
How are you?
I'm doing good. Welcome everybody. Today is our Halloween episode. Sorry if I scared you with my little voice there. I know it was a little spooky.
That was a trick.
A little scary.
And a treat.
Oh,
for me.
good. As always, I'm Sebastian.
I'm Maggie.
And over in our little computer station booth, we have Bryce. Say hello, Bryce.
The boy who never grew up. My name's Peter.
For our audio viewers,
Everything's normal.
everything's completely normal. No, we're all dressed up right now. Bryce is Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm.
And Bryce, is there any way that you can stand up for the camera and really show off what you got going? He's the boy who never grew up. He's wearing shorts. Brown? Are they brown? No, they're gray. Gray shorts with a little Peter Pan shirt and cap. It's just a really good look all around.
It was between this and a Chewbacca onesie.
Mackie, what are you dressed up as?
I'm Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
but
you
spooky.
are. For our audio listeners, Maggie has a cowboy hat.
It was the closest hat we had.
A yellow rain jacket,
Mm-hmm.
and a black t-shirt with glow-in-the-dark dinosaurs on it.
They're dinosaur skeletons, which is why
That's
it's
true.
spooky Jurassic
It's
Park.
spooky.
Move your laptop down real quick.
Oh,
Yeah, there we
now
go.
our video viewers
Excellent.
can see.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I, obviously, am the scariest thing of all, a sexy vampire from the Blade trilogy. For our audio viewers, I have a cool black coat,
Mm-hmm.
a white button-up, and red circle sunglasses. That's why I introduced you like this, because this is a little vampire voice.
I think you should just make that your regular intro voice now.
Welcome. That should be the trailer. We should use that for the trailer. Yeah, so it's a Halloween episode.
Yeah.
And our episode, obviously, we wanted to do a Halloween-related thing. I don't really like horror movies. They're not really for me. So the movie that we're talking about today is A Haunting in Venice, which, takes place during Halloween, and they made it a little spooky. But
there are some other Halloween-ish or adjacent movies we could have done. We are recording this on September 20th.
yeah.
Haunting in Venice came out on Friday, and Haunted Mansion is not on Disney Plus yet.
No.
So that's why we're not covering that one yet.
And we already talked about Renfield.
I can solo Haunted Mansion right now.
I know.
We know you can. If our audience wants a special Patreon exclusive episode of Bryce soloing
Yeah.
a
Just
Haunted Mansion episode,
stream of consciousness.
let us know and we will do that.
Yeah.
2 hours of Bryce talking Haunted Mansion.
It's not going to follow our formula for podcasts.
No.
Absolutely not.
No, it's
It'll
a
be
special
whatever
bonus
I
episode.
remember.
I wouldn't want it to.
Yeah.
And I refuse to watch it again before I record it.
Good.
So we're just going to go off of pure memory.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why did we start this podcast?
2023 is a weird year for movies. Besides the strikes happening, and then they happened, and that made things a little bit goofier.
Yep.
So next year is also going to be a goofy year for movies. Ones that have come out this year, we've obviously talked about 65 and Cocaine Bear. The bigger ones like Barbie, and then Fast X came out.
Yeah, we kind of forgot about Fast X
Renfield.
until recently.
The Five Nights at Freddy movie is coming out soon.
Super Mario came out
Super
this
Mario
year.
came out this
You guys
year.
remember that? You remember that earlier this year? Super Mario Brothers the movie?
Yeah.
And it wasn't bad?
Yeah.
The soundtrack's in my workout playlist.
Yeah. And, we'll talk about it eventually.
Yeah,
But,
I'm trying to look at our 80 for Brady. Obviously, we got to talk about
Yeah,
that at
that's-
some point. A Man Called Otto. Everyone's parents, I feel like, were
Big
really
George
into that.
Foreman,
movie.
of George Foreman biopic.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just a really weird year. And I'm not saying that, like, all of these are bad movies.
No. You know what else came out this year? an Indiana Jones movie.
Oh my god, that's right. Wow.
I feel like we just kind of glaze over in the intro why we just say, yeah, it's been a goofy year for movies, and then forget to highlight that an Indiana Jones movie came out this
and it
year.
didn't do great.
Yeah,
and
I think
so everyone kind of forgot about it.
Yeah, Knights of the Zodiac happened. Mafia Mama.
Wow, this is a Mission Impossible movie came out.
Meg 2. Power Rangers movie came out this year.
Yeah.
Just
So, that's why we started a podcast dedicated to this year, because
and it's never going to end.
It's never going to end. We keep finding new movies. Today, I saw 5 new movies.
Yeah.
September 20th is right now.
Correct.
That's 9 months into this year.
Yeah.
And we just discovered 5 new movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
How spooky.
Yep. We have a whole spreadsheet here that we're looking at on the screen right now. I just scroll and it keeps going.
There's a Michael J. Fox movie?
It was a documentary.
Yeah.
Which this podcast probably won't discuss documentaries. We might have a few exceptions. That might be one of them.
Yeah.
We're still kind of figuring that out ourselves. Let us know if you want us to discuss.
Tetris movie.
The Tetris. Oh my god, I forgot about Tetris. The remake of The Color Purple.
Yeah. Thanksgiving, a horror movie we will have to watch. I'm so sorry.
Well,
I will watch. The Flash. Anyway, this has gone on for long enough. It's not a bit, it's just wild.
Yeah.
So today's movie, A Haunting in Venice.
Yep.
The synopsis is, now retired and living in self-imposed exile in the world's most glamorous city, Poirot reluctantly attends the seance at a decaying, haunted palazzo. He soon gets thrust into a sinister world of shadows and secrets when one of the guests is murdered. What were your first impressions when you heard about this movie?
My first impression, I think, was probably another one. As in, why is there another one?
Yeah.
Because this is the third in this series where Kenneth Branagh is playing Poirot.
Hercule Poirot.
And I thought it was a little silly when the first 2 came out, because it's Kenneth Branagh playing Hercule Poirot. What was your first impression when you heard about this movie?
It was just kind of a deep sigh. Because my next question is, how familiar are you with Poirot / Agatha Christie? The short answer for mine is very. I've read a decent amount of her books. I've seen too many of the mini series that they've done of Miss Marple and Poirot, and I didn't watch the first movie. I've seen the second one. And then I also don't like Kenneth Branagh. Yeah. So I haven't been super happy with the way that he's taking this series. But yeah.
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 As we discussed in a previous episode, don't read books unless it's a very specific niche.
Yeah.
But I have seen many episodes of the BBC Poirot, which, was put on PBS for us Americans before it went to streaming.
Yeah.
That was in the 90s, I think. 90s, early 2000s.
Oh, I mean,
maybe
I'm sure
80s,
a version.
But
it's truly difficult for me to tell, because I feel like you get a PBS box set of the DVDs of those shows, and that is a bonus gift for signing up for years. So I really can't tell when it was first made.
But to me, that is always who Poirot is.
Yeah.
That little stout Belgian man.
Yeah, I forgot to look up that actor's name, but that's also who I picture first. I don't picture Kenny.
No, Kenneth Branagh is an interesting choice for sure.
Well, the choice was made by him, so I think he was really happy with his performance during the casting process, and it felt like a natural decision.
Yeah. David Suchet, I think, is the Poirot from that show.
In the books, Poirot is described as he's described as having an egg-shaped head multiple times, That's like a very specific thing. I kind of picture him as like suave Danny DeVito.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Not that Danny DeVito isn't suave, but
he's, the past few years, especially with It's Always Sunny,
yeah.
which is now a decade, more than a decade, so I guess more than the past few years, has really claimed the unhingedness that is Danny DeVito, because he's always like kind of had that, right? Like
he's always been a goofy guy.
Yeah, but the last decade he's been like, I'm Danny DeVito. Let's get funky.
I do Jersey Mike's commercials now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Well, as we always do, we're going to talk about the trailer, and by talk about the trailer, we will
describe it.
The description of what happens in the trailer.
Yeah.
Do you want to do this one?
Sure. So there's tense music. Or tense music sting over a shot of Venice. We hear a woman say, Hercule Poirot, I've found something. As Poirot turns around towards the camera, we see the detective walking with the woman through the city streets as she says, I've looked at it every which way. I am the smartest person I've ever met, and I can't figure it out, so I came to the second. There's a closer shot of the woman as she delivers this line, and we see, it's Tina Fey? Mm-hmm. Sure. More walking and talking shots as Poirot responds, you are up to something, my friend. And then there are fireworks over the city at night. There are 3 boats making their way through a canal as Tina Fey narrates, I've seen a million of these so-called psychics, each one a fake. There's a shot of a masked figure in a dark cloak on a boat emerging from the darkness. Poirot says, I do not believe in psychics. Tina Fey says, come with me to a seance. Spot the con, I can't. And we see people sitting in a circle around a figure in the middle. There's a shot of the masked figure walking up to Poirot, and we hear Michelle Yeoh say, Detective, you are here to discredit me. The shot returns to the seance as she continues, but I can talk to the dead. A rat comes out of a gargoyle. Is it a gargoyle? I know you have specific thoughts on this. Or is it just a fancy drain pipe?
If the water can go through the gargoyle's mouth, then it's a gargoyle.
A rat comes out of a gargoyle. A blonde woman... A blonde woman speaks to Poirot, saying, I'd give all I have to hear my daughter's voice. Back to the seance, with Poirot pacing around the group. There's a close-up of the psychic as she says, if someone wants to be heard, we are here, before showing a parrot. A young boy in the seance circle looks at Michelle Yeoh as she goes into a trance. There's a shot of the whole group for a beat, waiting for something to happen before a light bulb bursts, a chandelier falls, and a woman jumps in surprise. Lots of stutter shots of people turning / looking scared, lights turning off, and a teacup crashing to the floor. Michelle Yeoh gasps before looking right at the camera and saying "Mama" in a young girl's voice. The blonde woman also looks right at the camera / the psychic and asks, Alicia? We briefly see Poirot's face and a quick scan of the whole group before cutting back to the woman who asks, what is happening? A window bursts open and Michelle Yeoh begins to quickly spin around in her chair, screaming at the passing faces. There's a quick shot of a raised hand, slashing red marks, and a distant scream as people run out of a room. There's a black and white shot of a woman's body in the water. Then a closer shot of Tina Fey screaming. The title card from 20th Century Studios followed by a door locking. A man stands with a young boy and says, you can't trap us here. There are some brief shots of the large house they're all in, then Poirot closing a gate. There's a close-up of his face as he says, somebody is dead. A woman pulls a sheet over a body as he continues, nobody shall leave until I know who did it, with a shot panning over the whole group. People look at each other suspiciously. A different man angrily says, a ghost killed her, before a shot of someone running past the man and child sitting in a room together. Lightning flashes. Another Poirot close-up as he says, there must be a rational answer for all of this, followed by another shot of a masked figure in a boat in the rain. There's chaotic shots of Poirot and people losing focus. Tina Fey saying to the camera, just admit that you're up against something bigger than you, as Poirot shuts a door behind him in a small bathroom. There's a close-up of the dripping faucet. Poirot looks at it with confusion, with his head low over the sink. Then a quick cut to his head being held beneath water and him struggling to breathe. He raises his head from the sink, seeing a girl covered in water in the mirror behind him who disappears as he turns around. Another shot of Michelle Yeoh asking, you were saying? And a shot of Poirot looking up, startled. Title card with dramatic music on September 15th. Then shot of the storm outside, some shadow puppets, and Poirot saying, something in this house tried to kill me. A gate falls as people walk up to it, seemingly trapping them inside. Another title card says death, before Tina Fey says, don't look at me like I'm a suspect, we're old friends. As Poirot squints at her, then shoots shots of other potential suspects. Poirot responds, every murderer is someone's old friend, with other shots of people looking scared. the blunt woman backing up from someone as lightning flashes, and a girl is seen hovering in the air behind her. Another title card reads, "Comes for everyone." As the music builds to being more chaotic, a rope falls, and then a woman's body is shown beneath the water. The music cuts out as a key turns, then we see the back of Poirot's head as he looks at the group of suspects out of focus in front of him. More stutter shots of a masked figure, the fallen chandelier, and apples floating in water as he says, "No one shall leave until I find out if the living here have been killed by the dead." There's several very brief shots of scared people, and that one wet girl, then more lightning and rain outside. Things briefly fade to black, coming back up onto Poirot, speaking to someone, saying, "You have been hiding here all the time?" We see he's speaking to a young girl who nods in response. He's interrupted by Tina Fey asking, "Who are you talking to?" And as he turns to look back at the girl, she's gone. There's one final shot of Poirot looking tense before the title card, "A Haunting in Venice." It's very fast editing.
Yeah.
It's very tense, and I was also making fun of it the whole time, but it's like it's trying to be super suspenseful with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Very dramatic, and then leaning into the supernatural elements more so than either of the other two movies did. They're not really supernatural stuff isn't really brought up in either one of them.
No. And just, for any new viewers,
Mm-hmm.
of why we talk about the trailer, for a couple of reasons. We can't show the trailer on this podcast. It's not a legal thing that we can do unless we somehow get permission. And also, maybe, you haven't really heard about it. Maybe like this gets you interested. But like the main thing really is sometimes trailers can be different from what the movie ends up being. And we have discussed that in one of our previous episodes where the trailer definitely was not really what the movie ended up being. And I think that's like an important thing, or at least maybe a cool thing, a neat thing that goes into making movies and marketing movies, of just like a different team makes the trailer than the team that makes the movie. The people that make the trailer are an ad agency that need to just sell seats in theaters. So
it's interesting to see how a movie is trying to present itself, and to get people interested. And this trailer kind of does the trailer thing of like misdirecting and making you think about one thing, and the plot and everything is obviously going to be more complicated than that. There were a couple, this is nitpicky, but when I was watching the trailer, there are a couple lines, especially at the beginning, where Tina Fey says, "Hercule Poirot, I found something." And then there are a couple other lines that she says that have clearly just been spliced together, and the editing on it is a little bit sloppy. Like, you can clearly hear that there is, it's like that almost interrupting thing of like, this first half of this sentence did not match the second half.
But I'm also curious, like, is that obvious to us because we are movie makers ourselves and movie lovers, that we just pay more attention? Because I do feel like that's something like when we make stuff, I focus so much on little things that people just never even notice.
Yeah, maybe.
So like, I don't know if that's just because we are more into it.
The trailer also makes it seem like the girl is the main victim that they are all there for, which is true. But the Agatha Christie formula is like, you might start out with one body, but by the end you're gonna have three-ish. So it was interesting in the editing of the trailer who it kept like referring back to, and who it made it seem like was a bigger part of the movie. Because, spoiler, they don't all live through it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's because they don't want to show you who does end up dying. So like, if it starts out with like, for sure that this person is already dead, then like that's I don't know. This is, if you watch the trailer and they're like, this guy gets killed, then you're like, oh, okay, I guess I know that he's gonna die. Won't form any attachments to this character.
I know that's like how trailers work and whatever, and it's supposed to make you think it could be anyone or anything like that.
It could be me.
Yeah.
What if I kill him?
There's specifically the shot of like the because like I was surprised. I feel like I didn't watch the trailer until after seeing the movie. I had just been aware of it happening, so I don't think I felt the need to watch the trailer really. But I was surprised at how much the dead girl is involved in the trailer, or how much they present her in like different ways, and she like her presence escalates a lot, where you see her body in the water, and then there's a brief shot of the one woman that's draping the sheet over a body, and then you like there's a flash of her face on the screen, and then Poirot in the bathroom, and then just fully floating behind a woman. So like she becomes much more obvious throughout the trailer, and it really made it seem like, you know, if she's not the victim, then she's the ghost that they're all fighting. Yeah.
Before we get into big spoilers, we can talk about cast.
Yeah.
Because, you know, these movies typically have big casts. The first two definitely did.
And it's a pretty good cast. Kenneth Branagh as Hercule Poirot. Shocking. Michelle Yeoh as Mrs. Reynolds. That's the psychic. Jamie Dornan as Dr. Leslie Ferrier. Tina Fey as Ariadne Oliver. Ricardo Scamarcio as Vitali Portfoglio. I hope either of those pronunciations is correct. Kelly Riley as Rowena Drake. Camille Cotton as Olga Semenoff. Emma Laird as Desdemona Holland. Ali Khan as Nicholas Holland. Kyle Allen as Maxime Gerard. And Jude Hill as Leopold Ferrier. Can kind of say, so Poirot is there by himself. Mrs. Reynolds also, or she's the psychic, and then she has her two assistants, who's Nicholas Holland, and then his sister or half sister Desdemona Holland. Dr. Ferrier has I don't know how old he's supposed to be, 10?
8 or 10. I don't know.
A
He's
young boy who is his son. Ariadne Oliver is also there. Rowena Drake is the mother of Alicia Drake, who is the girl that died that they're trying to contact in the seance. And Maxime Gerard is the daughter's, or the dead girl's former fiance.
Yeah, that's right. I know we just watched this, but there were so many names.
It's a lot of them, which is also like what happens in the classic Whodunit, is that it's almost, you can't really keep track of everyone because there's just so many people. Kyle Allen, when I first saw this movie, I thought that somehow they got Heath Ledger to be de-aged
he
in this movie.
A Heath Ledger look to him.
I think it's the
I feel like
mouth mostly.
He kind of looks like someone else too, and I can't tell you who I'm thinking of legally, but it's somebody.
Yeah.
I just can't remember who I'm thinking of, but I definitely kept seeing him, and I was like, I know, I recognize, and I know I've seen him in other things, but like it was still more like, I feel like this is somebody else. I keep thinking he is somebody else.
Yeah. They're all like pretty big names. Jamie Dornan is probably most known for 50 Shades of Grey. Tina Fey is Tina Fey.
I knew Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
Tina Fey. And Ricardo. I think we're the only ones that I like really knew. I obviously I just said that I knew Kyle Allen.
Yeah. Or recognized him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other ones I truly could not tell you.
Kelly Riley is pretty big in the UK. I feel like I've seen her a lot in those similar BBC on PBS shows.
Yeah, maybe I do recognize
She always plays someone who's like very tragic. Like she'll be in some sort of cop procedural show, and then her husband is a professor and he drinks too much or something. That's like her typecasting. Yeah. I feel like so they were all, I think everyone was pretty good in it.
Yeah, I mean, the acting was good. I don't think there was any, like, outstanding performances. Maybe the little boy.
He was
he was good.
He's a creepy kid, and his dad is, I would say it's like 1947 or something like that.
Pretty sure that's exactly the year it is.
Great. Go me. So his dad was a soldier, and then is suffering from what we now call PTSD, and the kid has kind of become the parent and takes care of his dad a lot. And the Jude is good at what he does in this movie. I still don't know. I've seen this movie twice now. I still don't know how I feel about Tina Fey being in it.
It's so funny. This movie came out Friday. It is Wednesday. You have seen this movie twice. We should disclaim the first time was before the movie was released.
Humble brag. I saw this movie as part of a side gig that we do to see movies in advance and to help those screenings go on. I guess legally we should say my opinion does not reflect that of my employer, etc., etc. These are personal opinions, blah blah blah. So I saw this. I saw this in a theater where it was just me and two other people the first time. And
then when we saw it, it was you and three other people.
Yeah, it was open to the public. And I don't super get, she's fine in it, but I do enjoy the writing of this movie more than I enjoy the writing of the second one.
Yeah.
But there are times where it's more comedic, or there's a good back and forth between Poirot and Ariadne, but I don't super get why it's her. Besides, when she's introduced, she kind of has that mid-Atlantic accent of I'm a reporter from the 30s. That's kind of what she's going for, and then it just fades off as the rest of the movie goes. So I don't know if it was I don't get it. She's fine, but it just boggles my mind.
Truly, I am fine with it.
It's fine. I'm just so confused.
There's nothing a part of it that I'm why is this Tina Fey? Because Tina Fey, yes, comedian, has mostly done comedy, but has also done a lot of serious acting as well.
I'm sure she has. It's just not what I associate with her.
People are allowed to do one thing, and that's it. You and I talked about it, but she's in the What We Do. No, sorry, I'm confusing Hulu FX shows.
Only Murders
in the Building.
Yeah,
which is another whodunit type thing.
Right,
she is in that, and so I watched that, so maybe I'm a little more used to it.
And I haven't, so maybe that's
but
why.
There definitely wasn't any part of Tina Fey's performance where I was like, no.
She wasn't. Her performance was good. It's just you have someone like Tina Fey who is known for being a comedian and for being good at comedy, or that's the thing that you associate with her career, and then you just never utilize that. I wasn't waiting for a pratfall or something like that, but I was expecting some acknowledgement of her being a comedian. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean,
comedians are allowed to do serious roles, and it's not a big deal. It just,
I feel like there were parts in the movie where it was lighthearted, and she, showed that she wasn't completely serious the whole time.
Yeah. It's just,
I think it's very funny.
It's silly to me. She's not bad in it. Anyway. This is a pretty visually interesting movie. The cinematography is fun. There's a lot of wide angles, a lot of the camera suddenly turning towards someone, and weird cuts and stuff like that. So it kind of keeps the off-kilter feeling going.
Kept you a little uneasy, especially because the wide angle lenses a lot of the times were used up for close-up shots, and so it felt like you were really in the person's face.
Yeah,
that was neat.
The set and costume design also set the tone well, and then the production designer said that in an interview that I saw that it was fun to make the house one of the suspects, because there's the whole thing of whether or not the house is haunted, and he enjoyed the aspect of he's not just making a background for the actors to be in, he's making a character for them to also consider, which is interesting.
Before, when we were in the theater before the movie started, you know, it plays that like behind the scenes of certain things, little thing, and they showed behind the scenes for the movie that we were about to watch, which I always hate. Which I know that it's like they're not going to make different edits for different movies that are playing, but if I'm watching a movie and they're like, let's dive deeper into this movie, but I
don't know what we're diving deeper
diving deep. They were talking about how they like didn't tell the actors like when things would fall or when like certain like cues would happen so that all of the reactions from the actors were real. To me, that's called traumatizing. Because like while they were saying that, they show in the background a giant chandelier falling from the ceiling, and they're like, we didn't tell people when things were happening. I'm like, you didn't tell them when the thing that could have killed them fell?
Well, I if they told them like things were happening, that's one thing, but the when, I think,
I mean,
it's fine to play with that.
I found that thing, and it's specifically referring to the seance.
Just the seance.
Just the seance.
Okay,
as far as I know,
needs to be edited better
for sure. Yeah.
And also, I get what you're saying, Bryce, but this specific thing, chandelier falling, they show that while they say this stuff about not letting actors know. The actors who were around the chandelier, children.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They'll learn.
You're right. You're right. That's on me.
Yeah. There are also some small visual details that are interesting, like which characters are framed together. I don't know how detailed examples we want to give if this is now spoiler zone, where we can talk about specific plot elements.
Let's wait.
Okay.
Let's get through the next bullet point thing before we start spoiling.
It doesn't try to modernize the story, but it does give the characters at least more dimension, which I'm not a fan of Kenneth necessarily, but I think this one was better than I thought it would be. I saw Death on the Nile at some point, and it was not a good. It was not a good. It just, I mean, there's that clip that went viral of Gal Gadot going, and enough champagne to fill the Nile, where it just everything felt really stilted. It felt like everyone was just like everyone was two-dimensional. It just wasn't great. And then also Armie Hammer happened. And that was a bad combo.
And there was a comedian in that, and you're like, what is this comedian doing in this movie not playing a comedian role?
That's exactly what I said, word for word.
And now he's getting canceled.
Good for him.
Russell Brand.
He was in that?
Wasn't he? He was like a more put together like professor type character. He had glasses and his hair was back, and everyone was like, why is Russell Brand acting again? Because I really
scrolling.
Yep, there he is. He's in that movie, and you're like,
I have bad news about where I think Tina Fey is gonna go. This is my prediction.
Rest in peace, Tina Fey. You're not dead, but you're gonna get canceled.
Yeah. Death on the Nile wasn't great. And then like personal pet peeves again from like being so far from the source material. There's a whole thing that he's trying to do. I don't know how much the first movie touches on it, but the through line that he has with Poirot is that he is deeply affected by all of the death and destruction that he's seen in his personal career, and also with experiencing both world wars, which for sure
makes sense.
Another big element about Poirot is that he is very particular. Again, we would probably call that OCD now. But he needs things to be a certain way. And he notices details and patterns, and that's why he's good at what he does. He's also very particular about his appearance. That's the other thing about why it's kind of weird that Kenneth Branagh is Poirot, is that he doesn't physically match him, but then also Poirot is supposed to be like, you're supposed to underestimate him because he's small, and he just he's very fancy.
And he has a goofy mustache.
He's very goofy.
Kenneth Branagh has like a big
He has
mustache.
an also kind of goofy mustache.
But like big.
So the mustache in the second movie. So at the very end, he
spoilers for the second movie, I guess.
Spoilers for Death on the Nile, I guess. So he comes to terms with his identity as a soldier or as someone who has experienced war.
Mm-hmm.
And he sets up this character background that the reason that Poirot has a mustache is not for like pure vanity like it is in the books. It's because he has facial scars from shrapnel and he wants to hide the facial scars. So one of the last shots of the movie is it like turns around and Kenneth Branagh is there looking kind of haunted and he has shaved his face and his mustache is gone. And I was like, absolutely not. He would never do that. That's not a thing that he would do.
Clearly it didn't stick because it's has back. A big old mustache in this one.
Yeah. So in this one, Poirot still isn't quite like the books in the way that he is most commonly associated, but that's kind of the point of this movie, is that it's implied that he's retired, I guess, because of the past movie, because like it ends on a very down note of him being like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I'm upset about where I am in life. So he retires and he goes to Venice. And then in this one, you don't see him, like there's a teacup that they highlight that is on the edge of a table and he doesn't nudge it back. Like he doesn't adjust anything. He doesn't want to be a detective. He keeps saying that like he won't accept cases. And then Tina Fey is like, this isn't a case. This is a seance. That's completely different.
Poirot said, I'm taking my ball and going home.
Yep.
Sorry. He said, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home.
That was all right.
Like you, Poirot.
Sounded great to me.
Yeah.
Like you, Poirot.
One more time.
You.
Close in the mic.
You, Poirot.
Perfect.
Can you do that and the vampire voice at the same time?
No, I bet I could. Welcome. Hercule Poirot.
That's a clean take.
Yeah.
That's a wrap, everybody. We can go home.
All right, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would say now is the time
Great.
that we will talk about the movie itself.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want big ol' spoilers, if you don't like them big ol' spoilers, you just like them little bitty spoilers. If you don't want the big ones, stop listening, stop watching. Because now we're going to talk about the movie.
Poirot did it.
Poirot killed them all. It turned into a slasher horror film.
It's very different. He's taking the character in a new direction.
Yeah, so I like mysteries. You like mysteries.
Yep.
I feel like when we watch mysteries, we try to solve them as we watch them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we've just trained ourselves to pay more attention to the things that the movie gives. It wasn't a hard one to solve.
No.
But it also wasn't like the easiest. It wasn't like blatantly obvious or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't full of itself with the parlor scene of revealing everything, or like full of itself in its style, which is a big problem I have with the Knives Out franchise.
Yeah.
And Rian Johnson in general, because also his movie Brick, which
we've watched.
If you haven't seen Brick,
that's okay.
I do not recommend it.
Mm-mm.
I think people 20 years older than us love that movie.
Yeah. So if you're 20 years older than us, give it a shot.
But this movie wasn't pompous.
No.
Right? So like the mother killed the daughter.
So the whole premise of why the seance is happening is, or at least how it's initially set up, is Ariadne goes to Poirot and she says, I found the psychic, Mrs. Reynolds. I don't get how she does it. I think she might be legit. We should go to the seance after this orphans ball for Halloween party thing, hosted at Rowena Drake's house. We're going to contact her daughter.
Yeah.
She died a year ago at that point or something like that. And then all these other people are there for various reasons and associations. Olga Semenov is the housekeeper. I don't think we talked about her earlier.
I also want to say that the house that that the mom lives in,
the palazzo
used to be an orphanage, right?
Yeah.
So like they live in a former orphanage, and now it's Halloween. They just threw like a little Halloween party for orphans at a different orphanage.
Yeah.
To make it all spooky.
There's a whole lore set up with the shadow puppets.
I wish the whole movie, or we just get a movie with that shadow puppet style.
I liked the style, yeah. So there's like a shadow puppet story thing. Ariadne says that like Americans have brought back Halloween to Italy / the world, I guess.
During the war.
Yeah. So they're telling kids a spooky story, and they're saying that this place used to be a hospital. Hospital orphanage. And there were doctors and nurses that were taking care of kids, and then the plague happened, and then people got scared and they locked the orphanage hospital up because they didn't want to be exposed to sickness. And then those kids starved to death, and now the children's vendetta is what they keep calling it. And there's that mark that's like the red slashing thing that the trailer shows for a second. That is like the children's vendetta is if there's a doctor or a nurse that comes into the palazzo, then
death.
Outie.
Gotta go.
Yeah. So that happens. The seance happens. Poirot shows that Mrs. Reynolds is a fake-ish.
Yeah, so is a fake because she has two assistants.
She has two assistants
who helped her pull some stuff off. There was a typewriter that was typing itself, but it was just some magnetic control thing.
One of her assistants is hiding in a chimney.
For some reason. I truly could not tell why.
That's also an Agatha Christie thing. It's like there's like
always
so much,
someone in a chimney.
It's just
the
like
train one, there's a chimney and someone was in it.
There's like just extra stuff. Like someone is in a chimney and that's a key piece of information. Or there's a children's ball for orphans and that's a key piece of information. Or there's skeletons in the basement and that comes up kind of for a second and then we don't need to talk about it anymore.
No, why would you?
Yeah.
They're already dead. Who cares?
Yeah.
The plague was hundreds of years ago.
Yeah. So he exposes the second assistant, and then she keeps going and like committing to the bit basically.
Oh, so like what the way that they show it though, right?
Yeah.
Poirot exposes her for being a fraud.
He's holding the thingy.
But then she starts like freaking out, like twitching.
Yeah.
And she's on a little spinny chair and her feet are off the ground, but it is just spinning on its own over and over.
Yeah.
And then she starts doing this voice that like people said sounded exactly like the girl who died a year before.
Yeah.
And there's no explanation for that. So it's like they're like, oh, she is actually like a real psychic and there's supernatural stuff.
That's what
did have a problem with that.
The movie keeps doing that of like, it won't take a stance one way or another and whether or not the supernatural stuff is real. Yeah. Like there's enough plausible deniability either way to believe in whichever one. Because like the creepy kid, Leopold, is also like, he says that he is friends with the dead kids that live in the house. Yeah. And he says like, he's talking to Mrs. Reynolds and he says, like, I talk to ghosts all the time. And she's like, oh, do you? Like in the way that you are nice to a kid. And he goes, they say you're a fake.
Yeah. Leopold is not taking any nonsense. Throughout the entire movie, honestly, he's just like, no.
Yeah.
I talk to the ghosts. They're not happy. Mm-hmm. You're going to die because you're lying about talking to the ghosts.
And now I'm going to give my dad his medicine.
He's very sick. he's gonna get better. Spoiler, he doesn't.
No, he gets worse, actually. So Michelle Yeoh is shown a lot in the trailer.
Oh my god, it's like she's gonna be such a key character. She's dead in 15
And then,
minutes.
do you remember that part where I said the Agatha Christie pattern is you will end up with 2 more dead bodies? The first one is Michelle Yeoh.
Who dies by falling 20 feet max. Let's say
If that.
right? Like I'm stretching that. I don't think it was even that. She fell off of a balcony 20 feet maximum, falls onto a statue who has his hand in the air, and impales herself. She gets impaled on the hand of this statue.
Which I think is probably the part that killed her and not the fall.
Yes. and the statue doesn't break. She's just...
The statue, 1, doesn't break. 2, does not have any blood on the hand when they show it later.
Yeah, and also they somehow get her off of the statue. They
Right.
never show that.
Yeah, they put the sheet over the body and like
Yeah.
how did any of that happen? That's fine. We're not here to care about
No.
logistical details.
Death is death. Am I
Death-
right?
Yeah.
They don't make art like they used to.
They really don't,
We used to
Bryce.
be able to get impaled on statues and it wouldn't break.
Sorry, I want to do a weird little tangent that is not related to movies,
Okay.
but I think it's interesting. Did you see that artist who had to give back the museum $70,000
Oh, for turning in blank canvases?
for turning in a blank canvas titled "Take Their Money and Run"? This museum commissioned an artist to make a piece of modern art. They gave the guy $70,000. And in return, I think it was 2 blank canvases
Yeah.
that, like, from what I could tell, actually had been touched. Like, it wasn't just a blank canvas.
Like primed or something?
Like, stuff, like, he actually did stuff to the things. And from what I read, it was about how, like, different things age or deteriorate, basically, but it just looked like a blank canvas. And the title was "Take Their Money and Run." And so,
I mean, even if they were just blank canvases, that still counts as art.
right? But the museum was like, no.
That's a statement, and they just don't like the
Yeah.
statement.
I mean, to be fair, I don't like big, museum, whatever, that takes money. But also, I like that they've finally taken a stance. Like,
That they're
all
like-
the BS,
Yeah.
modern art that we see recently.
This is the
and it's
limit.
like-
And now we know it. Someone had to find it.
Yeah.
yeah. I'm glad we found it.
Yeah. It was the institution saying, don't say bad things about us. That's the limit.
Okay, sorry. Back to the movie podcast.
Anyway, the small details thing,
Yes.
like what you were saying about Ryan Johnson, he is very obvious with his details. And when we watched Glass Onion, and it was like right away, we were like, he did it.
Yep.
And then this is much more subtle, where you find out that like Ariadne Oliver and then Vitaly Portfolio were in cahoots. Vitaly is Hercule Poirot's bodyguard. They conspired to get him there to like fool him and then provide some legitimacy for her next book because she's an author,
she
whatever.
hadn't sold enough the last 3 books she made, so she wanted like
Yeah.
a really cool story, and so she basically set up this thing that
Yeah.
would stump Poirot, who is like her main book that has sold was based on Poirot.
Yeah.
And so she wanted like a thing that would like stump her greatest.
Basically, he went into retirement and then she went into a slump with her book. So
Yep.
now she needs to bring him back. But they don't really interact with each other that often, but you do see them visually paired together. And her whole thing is like she's really into apples. That's whatever. But she's really into apples, and you see her like she's introduced. The bodyguard brings an apple as like her calling card to Poirot. They talk, and then there are several shots of them like walking through Venice together, and the bodyguard is in the background like a couple steps behind them, and he's eating an apple. So it's like small stuff like that pairs them together. It just I like that more.
Yeah, and also like this movie is more subtle, and you do have to kind of like see what's happening as it goes to find out why the person committed the murders.
Right.
Like with Knives Out and stuff, instantly, and especially Glass Onion, instantly I was like, yep, it's them.
Yeah.
And then it was so pompous about being like, I'm so clever.
Yeah.
Is it them? No, it's not. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
That I did not care why they did it.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like, okay, that's fine. A rich person killed a rich person. Whatever. Right?
Yeah.
But like, this one was like, I don't know. It wasn't blatantly obvious at the beginning of why the mom killed the people. And then as like it went on, I was like, oh, I'm seeing who these people are.
Right. It's like that's why, you know, Agatha Christie is good or whatever. Is like she does have a formula of like the mom is she kind of blends into the background of all of the other suspects. Everyone else has much more obvious motives. And then as you learn more about the characters and things fall into place more, and you see like all of their other motives aren't really that big of a deal or easily explained or whatever, and then she becomes more obvious. And then it's also the formula of like you kill the one person and then the others are killed to cover up your crimes, and then you're more exposed that way and whatever. Again, the second movie was not good, but this one was better in a lot of ways in that like it's not as pompous. I felt like the second one was really pompous. And then this one is just much more, it felt much more intentional with everything that it was doing. Like the production designer said that like he approached the house in a different way than he normally does with different projects. The way that all the characters interacted with each other, I thought the editing was really interesting. It's very stylized, but I don't know. It's just a very different vibe. I feel like the second, like Death on the Nile, was just like, here the camera is set up, and here's a nice shot or whatever, and then we're not going to think about it too much after that, and we're just going to focus on like these over dramatic reactions of everyone. And this one was more detailed.
Yeah. And obviously, we keep saying the mom killed her own daughter, who was the girl that died a year ago. The reason was control, basically.
Yeah.
She, I don't know, had her daughter and then basically became best friends with her daughter and didn't want to ever lose her daughter because her daughter got engaged, and then the engagement broke off because the daughter needed to take care of the mom because the mom got upset, basically.
They started out with like a pretty loving relationship or whatever. I feel like it's easy to show a loving relationship with a kid, and then things get more complicated as people age. Bold take. But like the mom basically just like, I guess, viewed her daughter more as an accessory or anything, or like she always assumed that she would be around and didn't think about the fact that she has her own life and that she wouldn't also want to stay with her mom for the rest of her life. So like the mom says at one point, like, I've turned down marriage proposals without a second thought, just to stay with her, and she accepted the first one that she got. And then she says like she tore up her flower garden in a rage after she found out that her daughter got engaged, and then she traveled to Bucharest,
Istanbul.
Not Constantinople,
Istanbul.
Cool. She abroad. Then,
which one?
Yeah.
Bryce, don't shake your head. You know you liked it.
That was good. Oh yeah, no, that was good.
Yeah, she's more controlling, and then Maxime broke off their engagement because he realized that the mom was just always going to be like that for their entire life, and she's always going to be an overbearing presence. And so then when the daughter went back to her mom, then her mom started slowly poisoning her, like microdosing her, so that like, she would be kept weak and dependent on her. Like
it was a hallucinogenic that basically, like, she started seeing
the children. Yeah.
And then just couldn't really function on her own because she was being drugged. And then what happened was someone gave her the hallucinogenic because the hallucinogenic was a honey. And so someone made her tea to make her feel better, but put too much honey in the tea.
The housekeeper essentially unknowingly made the daughter overdose on the poison.
Yeah. And then it's revealed that someone started blackmailing the mom for money and being like, I know what you did. I know that the daughter's death is on you. And basically took all of her money.
So that's why the mom kills the other people. She like doesn't want the secret to be revealed and also wants to get rid of her blackmailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The blackmailer is the little boy. Which is one, badass.
Yeah.
2, the boy needs therapy. It's 1947. It ain't gonna happen. I feel like a lot of these movies are like, you need therapy.
Yeah. So she kills Mrs. Reynolds because Mrs. Reynolds says like, in this seance session, the killer wasn't revealed, but let's try again tomorrow night and I bet it will happen. And she's like just believable enough that it's a real threat. And then she also kills Dr. Leslie Ferrier because she thinks that he
sort of.
So she
makes him kill himself.
She thinks he's the guy blackmailing her.
Yeah.
And then she threatens to kill Leo unless he kills himself.
Yeah, but the way that he does it is he puts a knife against the wall behind him and then just walks back into it.
He stabs himself in the back.
Like, that is impressive.
I know. I was like, that's some determination, mental and physical, to make that happen.
Yeah.
But they also established that he previously attempted suicide. So he was like, I guess that was
PTSD.
Yeah. So they kind of set that up as like he's a easy target for her manipulation in that way of like he's already susceptible. He's already in a very fragile state, and then she's just like boop and kicked him off the edge.
And basically. The only reason he is around because he's in love with her.
Yeah.
So
see, it's all
healthy relationships.
Just everyone is connected to everyone.
They should all go to family therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the movie. There's nothing like else really that was too wild.
Yeah, so the supernatural stuff like comes in and out. So Poirot,
I'm sorry, it's Poirot.
Poirot.
There you go.
Someone attempts to kill Poirot.
Yeah.
Because they think that not someone. Rowena attempts.
The mom tries to kill.
She tries to kill Iku because Mrs. Reynolds put her like mask and cloak on him to be like, lighten up, buddy.
Yeah.
And like a totally weird thing, but whatever. That was the other detail I was thinking of. When she leaves that scene, then she like looks up at the statue. She just like stares at it while she walks out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's like, okay, I'll try and lighten up. I'll bob for apples. Mm-hmm. And then Rowena comes up behind him, tries to drown him in the water, and then realizes, oops, mistaken identity. I'm trying to kill the wrong person.
Yeah.
And
it's like, I'm guessing like they did that to be like, ooh, the apple person. Apples.
Yeah.
Apple person tried to kill him.
Apples is a thing.
Not once for a second did I think that.
Yeah.
I was just like, no.
But where was I going? Oh, the supernatural stuff. So he gets hit over the head during this attack, and then they're like, what is our fix for this illness of murder?
Bandages
almost
and tea.
Bandages and tea. And then they put or Tina Fey finds some leftover honey, and she puts honey in the tea. So then basically Poirot is lightly tripping through the rest of the movie, and that's why he like hears a kid singing throughout the house. He sees that girl that's in the trailer. It's revealed that is actually a younger version of the daughter that died. He finds a photo of that later. But then also the whole time, then every time something weird kind of happens to him, then Leopold comes around a corner and he's like, you heard that too, right?
Yeah, Leopold's haunted.
But they do find skeletons in the basement. So the kids were like, that part of it was true, was that orphans were locked away.
Well, because they find it because there's this giant loud noise and they're like, what is that?
Yeah.
And then Q is like, we have to go to the basement. And the mom's like, there's no basement.
There is no basement.
House. And then he's like, there is basement. And then tripping, not like physically, but like, on drugs.
Yeah.
He's like going through the house
Mm-hmm.
and he sees this really long corridor and he goes to it. And when he gets to it, it's in Roadrunner, when the Roadrunner paints a wall for the coyote and it looks like a road.
Optical illusion.
Yeah, it's an
hallway.
optical illusion.
Yeah.
So it's just a part in a like door frame that's painted to look like a long corridor.
He kicks the door down.
Yeah, like he goes up to it and everyone is like watching him like, yo, Perot, are you okay, man? Yeah. And he like looks back at them and he looks at the thing and he just kicks the wall and it just opens up and he's like,
it's the basement.
La la. And they go into the basement and tons of children skeletons everywhere.
The camera,
Rats.
The camera changes again, or the cinematography, where it almost feels like found footage. Like it's
very handheld.
It's very shaky. Yeah. It looks like there was a light that was on the camera, so it felt like Blair Witch or something. Of like something is gonna peek around a corner. And
that has been pooked.
Yeah. Yeah, but then they find skeletons. The banging noise was like a log or something hitting a window.
Also, there's a giant storm happening outside in Venice.
That's another reason why the police can't get to them, is because the storm is happening. The children's vendetta thing is so they say like any nurse or doctor that comes into the place will kill.
Michelle Yeoh was a nurse in the war.
She was a nurse in the war, and then the doctor is a doctor, so they're like, it's true. And they were saying that the daughter, the official story when she first died was that it was suicide and that she was driven to jump because she heard the voices of the children and they wanted her to become one of their own.
Yeah.
And then you see her towards the end, you see her floating behind her mom as Perot is confronting her.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be another like maybe the effects of the tea have worn off by now. Maybe they haven't.
Also like show that the daughter, as in her ghost form, pulls the mom back towards the ledge that they're on, and then the mom is like and then falls.
Yeah.
So it's like, did she jump or was she killed by a ghost?
Yeah, the mom
spooky.
The mom also dies, and then you see her floating below the water, and then her daughter ghost form or whatever is like pulling her down.
So no justice was really found today.
But Perot solved the case.
And he's back in the saddle?
Mm-hmm.
He's taken on cases again?
Yeah, that was the other thing of he needed a bodyguard because people kept approaching him to be like, I want you to solve this case or whatever, and then he wouldn't let anyone contact him. And then by the end, then he just leaves his door open, and then a guy walks in and he's like, your doctor killed your parents.
Surprise.
He's back, which implies a fourth movie will happen. Anything else before we get to production facts?
No, I don't think that's the movie.
Yep.
So production facts.
Yeah. As we said, was released on September 15th, 2023. It has a runtime of 1 hour and 43 minutes, and it's rated PG-13. It has a 78% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 77% audience score.
I think I kind of agree with that. Yeah.
That was interesting to me that it was like, I feel like most other ones that we've covered, there's been a pretty big gap between what critics and audiences think, but everyone with this one is like, no, that's pretty good. 63 out of 100 Metacritic, and then a B from Cinema Score. In part of a review that I saw from the New York Times, it says, in straddling genres, haunting can get stuck in the middle, but there's fun to be had there. What's consistent is the elegant visuals, striking cinematography by Harris Zambarlukos. Harris Zambarlukos, which mark this movie's real genre as a lavish, old-fashioned Hollywood entertainment. That tracks to me. And then a lot of reviews use the word moody a lot.
I love when a lot of reviews for things use the same phrasing.
Yeah.
The biggest one that I always think of is the Spider-Man video games. Of makes you feel like you're Spider-Man. And then the Miles Morales one where it's like all of the charm of a young black boy in New York City. Like it's something along.
Is it that weird clip that just saw where he's like, it's the swagger of a young black boy.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa.
But I think like multiple reviews say that. Like it's really weird.
That's deeply upsetting.
Yeah.
The memes from that are pretty fun.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you if this movie was a success because it came out less than a week ago. So there's no way for us to know yet.
So it's still earning money, allegedly.
I will say, based off of what I'm seeing on your notes, it's doing pretty well.
It had a budget of $60 million, according to Wikipedia.com.
Mm-hmm.
It currently at the box office has earned $39.1 million total. This is, again, it's been out for 5 days.
Yeah, it's impressive.
I think it was something like it was projected to earn 10 million in its opening, and it earned 14 or something like that. So it's doing good. While we're talking about money, again, Death on the Nile, not fun. But it had a budget of $90 to $100 million, and then it earned $139 million, which was more than I expected. Yeah. Filming began in 2022 on Halloween, which I thought was fun.
That is fun.
And then, as we've mentioned, it was directed, produced, and it stars Kenneth Branagh.
Oh, really? He had a part of this movie?
He was there in the background. Yeah. It's the same for the other two in the series. I assume producing on those. That's the only one I didn't look up.
It's so interesting that like clearly he likes the character Poirot, but then he was like, I am going to bring Poirot back to the starlight.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be gritty, and it's gonna be about a guy who has some severe PTSD.
I have two thoughts on this. Number one, it's a little bit necessary because Poirot in the books, he's not two-dimensional, but in the ones that I've read, you really don't learn a whole lot about them because they're all told from the perspective of his assistant, who he's like, you're my best friend. And then they never really discuss like why they're friends in the first place. Or there's never like, you don't really find any common ground between them. It's just the assistant being like, my God, he's done it again. So you need to like, you got to give some dimension to that guy of making people interested in him. Do I always agree with the dimension that he did give him? Absolutely not. The other thing is Kenneth Branagh's career specifically, very big into doing adaptations for the screen. He's, I think, most known, at least directing wise, for doing a bunch of Shakespeare stuff.
To me, it's Thor, right? He did that first one.
He also did that.
Pretty sure he did the first Thor.
Yeah. You know what? I have the power of the internet on my side.
He might have done the second one. I believe he worked on Thor.
He did a Thor for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hamlet, Much Ado About Nothing, Henry V. Henry V. Yeah. Oh, he's in Oppenheimer. Did not know that.
Everyone is in Oppenheimer.
And Tenet.
Was he not there for Henry 1 through 4?
No. They brought him in. He was in Wallander, a fantastic BBC show.
I did like Wallander.
Yeah. I believe you're looking at the actor list
Poopy.
right now, and not his.
Well, there's the Harry Potter one.
Yeah, he's in the second one, right?
He is the Lockhart.
Defense Against.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're going through his IMDb right now for our viewers. Thor. He didn't do Dark World?
I thought he did.
I mean, it said Thor.
Yeah.
But I didn't see Thor Dark World. Huh. No, I guess he just did the first Thor.
He did the Cinderella?
And he did Belfast.
Wow.
So, okay, he's got some merit to him.
He's got, it just says Thor. 2011.
Interesting.
Yeah, he also is Cinderella. Again, adaptations.
Yeah.
He's not like bad
No.
as a director or as an actor or anything. He's obviously had a very successful career. I've just never been a fan of him, partially because I feel like my mom hasn't been a fan of him. So then now legally I'm not.
Sure.
Yeah, that's my hot take on Kenneth. I was pleasantly surprised with this one. And then it's also the same screenwriter for all films, Michael Green. which I thought was interesting just because I feel like the writing is so different between Death on the Nile and Haunting in Venice. Again, like we said, actors didn't know the specifics of what would happen during the seance scene. The interview clips that I did see was that people were saying it's the most genuine reactions you'll see during the film. There is a very intense sense of like nervousness on set for that, but they also had a fun time.
Yeah.
So not super traumatized, hopefully, from this experience.
I hope not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, should we talk about our ratings for this movie?
Sure.
I realized when we started this, I have not given it a rating yet. So this is going to be news for literally everyone.
Off the dome.
But we have a rating system out of 4 with 5 options. 0 out of 4 is, oh no, stop making movies, give up on your passions. 1 is, that was a movie. 2 is, it's a well-made movie. 3 is enjoyable and technically good. 4 is Oscar-worthy. Maggie, what was your rating for this movie?
I gave this a 3 out of 4. There are a lot of elements in it that I enjoyed, like from the technical aspect. Again, cinematography is very good. The performances are good. Editing keeps things interesting in a way that I didn't expect. There wasn't necessarily anything super surprising about the plot, even though I haven't read this story before, but it was enough like I knew other people were going to die. I didn't know necessarily that it was going to be Michelle Yeoh, and also that it was going to be that early on. So when she died, it was more just like, oh, interesting. Yeah, I expected it to be pretty bad, and it wasn't. So I gave it a 3 out of 4.
Yeah, that's fair. This is going to be a shocking rating for me, because we never agree on things.
Oh my god!
I also think it's a 3 out of 4.
Ugh.
It was an enjoyable Whodunit movie that wasn't pompous.
Yeah,
I mean, that's pretty much.
Again, we don't really like Rian Johnson,
and it gave the full swagger of a black teen experience.
Kenneth Branagh.
He can do it all.
And he will. He will cast himself. We don't really like Rian Johnson, but I do appreciate the success of the Knives Out like franchise has made whodunits a little bit more mainstream. I think they're a fun concept. That being said, I don't want the Clue remake to happen.
No, that's a movie that doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
I think that is our discussion for that movie. At the end of each episode, we talk about another movie that we have watched just recently that isn't 2023 movie.
Yeah.
And right before we started this podcast, we were watching a movie that opens on a scene at Halloween.
So it counts.
It counts. The movie's called Fanboys. And the movie is about 4 lifelong friends go on a journey to Skywalker Ranch in 1998 to steal a copy of The Phantom Menace so that they can watch it.
Yep.
Yeah. It sounds dumb. Like, that sounds like a dumb premise. I'm gonna be honest, so far, it's kind of fun and good.
We have about half an hour of it left, which I think we'll probably finish tonight.
Probably. Like, it was made in 2009, and so it does have, like, a little bit of that, like, 2000s humor.
Real gross with a couple things.
Takes place in 1998, so, like, the things they say are not things that you can say now. A lot of it's not PC. It's historically accurate.
This is a period piece.
It is a period piece. Like, it's goofy. But, like, the chemistry of the actors is, like, pretty good. The writing is very silly, but, like, in a way that's, like, fun and, like, believable. But then also, like, it pokes fun at, like, the Star Trek, Star Wars... like feud, I guess,
which I feel like isn't really a thing anymore.
No, because now with the internet being so big and accessible, the feuds are within the fandoms,
right?
So it is Star Wars fans who basically like Star Wars, and then Star Wars fans who don't like Star Wars. Like, those are the feuds now.
Yeah. Seth Rogen is in this movie as 2 separate characters who are not related to each other. There's no reason for him to be double cast, but he is.
And I want to know why.
And I like it.
cannot wait to look at the IMDb trivia that says
It's very heartwarming to see the solidarity that Star Trek fans have with everything.
yeah.
Because they'll be like, yeah, I didn't really care for Deep Space Nine, but I understand what it was trying to do. And they all kind of get together.
Star
and then
Trek fans are so much better than Star Wars fans.
Oh, yeah. And Star Wars fans just mayhem.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The only problem Star Trek fans are the ones who are recently saying, why is new Star Trek so woke?
Why is it so political?
As if they have never watched Star Trek in their lives. Like,
Yeah.
it's always been political and progressive. That is the point of Star Trek.
Hey, there's a picture from Next Generation, I think, when they were all dressed in drag. It was just for a fun Halloween thing.
Yeah. It is there is an episode in the first season of Star Trek Next Generation that if you go back and watch it, it is problematic.
Mm.
It is very weird. They find a planet of black people. That's like the whole thing. And this was when Gene Roddenberry was still alive, so he wrote the episode.
So it's his fault.
But apparently, when they were filming it, first season of Next Generation, so that's like 87 maybe, all of the actors were like, this is not good. This is not okay. Like, what's happening in this episode? Not cool. So like clearly the actors of Star Trek also have to be pretty progressive.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah. Anyways, Fanboys, very goofy, but like kind of just like a fun.
There are a lot of Easter eggs for like if you are a Star Wars fan,
Yeah.
and then some pretty obvious ones too. But then also just so many good cameos so far.
Mhm.
Like
I'm excited for more.
Carrie Fisher was in it.
Billy D. Williams
Yeah.
is in it.
William Shatner was
is
there.
in it.
Yeah.
It's all very interesting because William Shatner plays himself.
Mhm.
Carrie Fisher and Billy D don't play themselves; they play characters. So I think
Really makes you think.
I mean, I'm not saying it makes you think, but I do think it is an interesting choice
Mhm.
of being like, because we're following Star Wars fans who don't like Star Trek fans, but the only person playing themselves is a Star Trek person.
Mhm.
And like the Star Wars people, I don't know. I think it's because like I think it does kind of show that these fans are so in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
And I know that's a goofy thing to like really analyze fanboys, but like I don't know. I think more thought was put into it than what the exterior would show.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening or watching our Halloween episode. Our Halloween episode of Year of the Movie podcast. The podcast where we discuss movies from the year of the movie, 2023. Please follow us on Instagram. If you want bonus content or content early, you can go to our Patreon.
I just really like the switch between voices.
And we will see you next week. Have a happy Halloween.
Woo.
Thor 1's the best Thor.
Shut the